Before I start this video, I just want to say sorry it literally took so long to make. Some footage got corrupted when I was editing it, and I basically had to redo a lot of things, so I'm very sorry that it basically took like 9 months just to make. But anyways, it's here. Hopefully I'll try to be more consistent with uploads, and thank you so much for being patient with me. Enjoy the video. Hey guys, it's me CJ, and today I'll tell you how to make your very own tricky plush from Madness Combat. So all templates will be in the description, and it's going to be very similar to my Hank plush, so if you have any templates from there, it will work just fine on this one. So without any further ado, here's the materials you will need. For fabric colors, you need 2 sheets of dark green and 2 sheets of light gray, and you only need 1 sheet of black, white, red, and dark gray. You will also need red, green, light gray, and dark gray thread colors, a pack of glue sticks and a glue gun, some bendable wire, and a pack of cotton. So to make the base of Tricky's head, you just want to cut out a simple circle shape and trace it using the dark green felt. And you only want to sew up until this part all around, and you want to leave this little gap open, that way we can stuff it and flip it inside out. After sewing, you should have something that looks like this. Now moving on to Tricky's hair, it's basically a series of bumps that continue to go up and get smaller. But at the base, or like at the bottom right here, you want to make sure you curve it, that way it can fit better on the head. And also when you're sewing, you only want to sew all around and leave this curved gap open. With the hair, also keep in mind to make it as big as the head, since when we stuff it, it's gonna like shrink a little bit. And his hair is basically as big as his head, so you want to make sure it's just basically the same size to fit over his head. After sewing and stuffing it, you should have something that looks like this. So now you just want to ladder stitch it on the side of his head like that. After ladder stitching both of them on, that completes Tricky's hair. So if the bumps are a little bit uneven, that's fine, since it makes it look a little more realistic, but just make sure both of them are the same length so it's not lopsided. Moving on to Tricky's mouth, the base of it is basically a half circle shape that's black, and for the teeth you just want to cut out 5 small ovals and just glue them onto the top of it like that. For the bottom piece though, it's red and it's a little more thinner, and you basically want to do the same thing, but first glue on the teeth and then glue on the red part last. After everything is glued together, you want to glue the mouthpiece onto the bottom of Tricky's head like this. But after you glue it, you want to cut out a long string of green felt with like indents in them, and you want to glue it on the very top like this. So it makes it appear like it's actually coming out of his head rather than actually being like a flat piece. After gluing the mouth on, you just want to add the cross in the middle of his head using black marker, and that completes his head. So if you want, you can leave your Tricky plush like this. But next we're going to be working on the mask, but if you're not interested in working on that, then please skip to this time. So without any further ado, let's get done with the last part of the head. So the base of Tricky's mask looks something like this. And keep in mind that depending on how big you're making your plush, you want to cut it off so it's at least taller than his hair to look something like this. Since with his OG Madness Combat design, it basically low-key covers the top of his head a little bit. And when we stuff it, it's going to appear smaller. So when you're sewing it, you only want to like sew all around but leave the top open, that way you can put cardboard inside of it. After sewing and flipping the mask inside out, you just want to cut out some cardboard and slide it into the mask. Then once you get it to the right height, you just want to seal the mask up by ladder stitching the top. After the top is sewn up, you just want to fold the mask in half like this. But be careful when you're folding it, since it's really easy to crease the other sides like I did, so it's not like a perfect fold. But yeah, that's basically it. So now moving on to the details, it's really simple. Basically it's just 2 oval shapes for like the eye holes right here. And for the bottom part, you can use a marker to draw down the 3 dots for like the breathing holes or whatever that part of the mask is called. The final step to completing the mask is to make the strap so it can actually fit over his head. So to make them, you want to cut out a long piece of black felt, and you just want to make the width big enough so you can sew it across like this. And one of them you want to make long enough to wrap around the whole head to clip onto the mask. But the other one here, you want to make it short enough so it could go over his head like this. But make sure to make it longer, or like a little bit longer than the head itself, since when we put it over his head, we're going to have to squeeze it past his hair so it can actually fit on tightly. After both straps are sewn, the first one you want to ladder stitch onto the mask is the one that goes over his head. That way you know when to position the longer one. So basically on the other side of the mask, you just want to ladder stitch it in the inside and the tip like that. After that's sewn, you want to grab the long strap and you want to sew it onto the very end like this. Make sure it's even so that way when it fits over his head, it won't be lopsided. So we're all the straps sewn together, that fully completes the mask. So to put it on, sadly though, it's a little annoying. So basically what you have to do is you have to like squeeze the hair and put it over this side like that. And on the bottom, just wrap it around his, not neck, but just bottom in his head basically. So really quick, I'll show you what it looks like. And this is what Tricky looks like with his mask on. So the mask definitely is a little more tight compared to my old plush, since in my old one I used Velcro, but it wasn't really that secure, so this one definitely is a lot better. So remember, if you want to take the mask off, you gotta like stuff it through the head and like the hair, so you want to squeeze the hair and then slip the mask off. So if you made it this far, congratulations, the head is not complete. So now we're gonna move on to the body. So the body is definitely a little more easier, so if you struggle with this, don't worry, everything will turn out okay. Now moving forward, the first step to make Tricky's body is to cut out a rectangle shape that kind of slants down and gets more wider. And when you're tracing this, you want to make sure it's at least bigger than his mask, that way it's proportionate with his whole head, since I made mine's a little too big, but that's okay. So you only want to sew all around but leave the bottom gap open. After sewing that, you want to cut out a gray oval, and you want to make it big enough to fill in the gap on the bottom like this. It's kind of hard to put on, sorry about that. But you basically want to sew all around, and you want to end right here and leave this gap open so you can flip it inside out and stuff it. After flipping it inside out and stuffing it, you should have something that looks like this. So now in the back, you just want to close up the gap by ladder stitching. Moving on to Tricky's hands, after you trace it, you basically just want to sew all around so you get to this gap right here. You want to make it a little smaller than it actually appears, that way we can put the wire inside since we're going to glue it in. Once you flip that inside out, you just want to keep sewing a little bit right here to close the gap so it appears a little more smaller. So now we're going to work on the wire so we can make it bendable. The first step to make that is to cut out a really long wire like this, and then basically bend it and then continue to wrap it around it, kind of like a string. And as you're wrapping the wire around like this, you want to make sure it's not too long since his hands are not that far away from his body. So basically this length right now is good. Once the wire is completely wrapped, you want to poke two small holes on the side of the body like this, and you want to poke the wire through the whole body. Once the wire is lined up, you just want to apply some glue right here, and you want to cut out a little ring to cover it up like this. And with the hands, you basically want to repeat the same process as from the body. After both hands are glued onto the wire, that fully completes Tricky's upper body. So now the last step we need to do in order to complete the full plush is to complete his shoes. The first step to do Tricky's shoes is to cut out a half oval shape using a dark gray felt. So when you're sewing, you only want to sew across here, but leave the bottom gap open so you can flip it inside out. After flipping the shoe inside out and stuffing it, you just want to ladder stitch the gap shut. After that's sewn, you just want to ladder stitch your shoe to the bottom of the body like this. Once both shoes are sewn on, that fully completes the body. So now all you want to do is you just want to grab the head and you want to ladder stitch the head onto the body, completing the plush. With his head sewn onto his body, congratulations on that complete your Tricky plush. So there's one more thing we need to make, and that's a stop sign. But before I get to that, I want to give a few shoutouts to PShooterGamer64 on YouTube and Smeet Morphs or Smet Morphs art on Instagram on YouTube. I'm really sorry if I mispronounced your name, bro. I'm really sorry. I'm dumb. But bro, look at the things they managed to make, both of them. Like, it's just like incredible. Like, the templates are on point, the colors they used, the designs are really accurate to how they actually appear like in game or like as the character in general. So I'm really proud of them. Please check them out. They're definitely worth it. I don't really know what else to say. I'm sorry, this part is kind of unscripted, but they're just amazing. So please check them out. All the links will be in the description. So without any further ado, here's how to make Tricky stop sign. Now the first step to create Tricky stop sign is to cut out a long strip of gray felt. You basically want to cut it as long as the sheet itself, since the sign is actually like as long as him. And you want to make the width long enough too, so you can fold it like this and sew all across. You want to sew the bottom, but leave the very top open so you can flip it inside out. After sewing that, you want to flip it inside out, stuff it, and you just want to ladder stitch this gap shut. Now to make the actual sign, you just want to cut out a hexagon using gray felt. And when you're sewing, you basically want to do the same thing with the mask. You want to sew the bottom portion, but at the top you want to leave the gap open so you can flip it inside out and put some cardboard inside of it. After sewing the bottom, you want to flip it inside out, put some cardboard in it, and then ladder stitch the top. After the top has been sewn together, you just want to cut out and glue on the details. So the first one is a dark gray hexagon that's basically smaller than the actual one. And another one is an exclamation mark that kind of goes down and gets a little thinner. So you just want to glue it on in the center. Basically like that. It's kind of sloppy, but yeah. After that's been glued on, the final step is to ladder stitch the actual sign onto the pole like that. Now with that done, that about wraps up this video. So thank you so much for watching. And also thank you guys so much for being patient with me. I know this video literally took ages just to come out, because I had to redo a lot of things and just basically troubleshooting. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope this guys helped you, or I hope this video helped you. My bad, sorry about that. And anyways, have a good day. Peace. So with all the straps fully sewn, that fully completes the mask. So in order to put it on, you want to grab his hairpiece. It doesn't matter. You could